Expectations are high in Muenster. Hello, everybody. Terry Bennett here on the inaugural for 2024 Muenster Hornet Football Show right here on S2S Sports, part of L4 Media, as this will be year 3 of doing the Muenster Coaches Show here on the network. And we are excited as we'll be talking each and every week to the head coach of the Hornets, Coach Brady Carney. Last year, 8-5, and that heartbreaking, tough loss to Albany in the playoffs, 19-14, a game that went back and forth, and a game that, man, Muenster played so well. And the awesome thing is that core is back. And they're still young. You're talking about a group of really good seniors, but really, really good juniors who last year, sophomores, took the Lions to the mat. That's why, as I said, expectations are high for the Muenster Hornets this year. But it's going to be a tough road. As Coach Carney will talk about, the district schedule, the non-district schedule, you could make the case that Muenster for 3 rounds of the playoffs won't see any team like they're going to see in a Holiday, in a Pottsboro, in a Collinsville. And yes, I know Collinsville lost their stud quarterback, but they're still talented. They're going to do things a little different this year, but they're going to still be talented. Lindsay has a lot coming back. And so for Muenster, expectations are high. This is a team that I think is going to play for a really, really long time, but it's going to be a tough road to hoe in the regular season. If this is the first time you're listening, we will be talking to Coach Carney each and every week. We basically do a review and preview, talk last week's game, talk the game that's going to be played that week, talk some of the sub-varsities, some of the players. We just have a lot of fun talking Muenster football. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to do just that. We're going to talk Muenster football right here on the Muenster Football Show, brought to you by the Booster Club and Romer's Restaurant in Muenster. Here at L4 Media, we talk high school football, 4A, 3A, and 2A in Texas. We talk East Texas sports. We talk NFL, guy talk, movie and booze. We also talk wrestling and so much more. And you can see it all on our YouTube channel at L4 Media Company. Like and subscribe. Terry Bennett back here on the Muenster Football Show. Now joined by the head coach of the Hornets, Coach Brady Carney. And Coach, first off, it's the beginning of the year. Excitement abound. But as you like to say, man, it sure is hot. How's practice been this week?
Well, we've been going in the morning for I guess ever since we started in early August. We haven't participated in the afternoon practice yet as far as full pads or anything. We may go out there and do some walkthroughs and stuff, but we haven't been out there in the heat just yet. So we've been going at 5:30 to 7:30, and then getting a little bit in during the period, lifting and so forth. So for us, it hasn't been too bad. The early mornings are tough on the kids, and it's tough on the coaches because we go straight into junior high after that. So, coaches are on the turf from 5:30 to 8:30 at least every day. So it's tiring this time of the year, but, it looks like the weather may give us a break a little bit starting next week, and maybe we can get back on schedule.
When you talk about that, and I think almost all programs that can do the morning stuff, does it affect you when you get into the scrimmages and for the first couple of weeks of the season, shifting them from the morning to the night games?
Man, I really don't think it does, Terry. I as a young coach, I think you think that, and maybe it does, but my opinion as I get older, I think it keeps you maybe even a little fresher. And by the time you start your scrimmage at 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, I'm not saying it's not hot, but it's not like it is at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So in the scrimmages, to answer your question, no, I don't feel like I've seen us suffer too much from the heat or fatigue or anything from it. I feel like we've performed pretty well in our scrimmages as far as conditioning goes.
Well, how have you looked outside of conditioning? Just how have you looked in your 2 scrimmages?
Man, we went over to Jacksboro, and Jacksboro, of course, they played Gunner in the quarterfinals last year. Lost a really good player in Belcher at quarterback. But, man, I'm telling you, they're bringing back because I've already had some people just ask me, what I thought about them, and they're bringing back a really strong defense. Defensively, they're still really tough. D-line's tough. Linebackers, safeties are really good. The Venezuela kid, I think he's committed to Colorado State. Jacksboro's still a really good football team. And then we rolled into City View last week, and, man, I'll tell you, they've got a good bunch of kids over there right now, too, in City View. They got a quarterback, running back, receiver that are really talented. But, from the first week against Jacksboro to the last week against City View, I thought we showed major improvements from one week to the next, and that's what we got to do each week. But I thought we performed much better last week against City View than we did the first week against Jacksboro. But like I said, Jacksboro's a really good defensive team, so we had some drives, we just couldn't maintain them or finish them against Jacksboro, and we finished them a few times last week against City View.
Last year, the Hornets, it was all about youth, and you're still pretty young this year, but are you starting to see the guys that were sophomores last year who are juniors this year, you're starting to see that veteran and that experience being born in these kids?
Yeah, I feel like I have during practice and in the scrimmages. Like you said, we had a lot of sophomores and juniors last year, and now they're juniors and seniors, and you kind of get to that grown-up phase of where you're now the bigger dude on the field, or you're just as old as those guys, and you're just as experienced as the guys you're playing against. And I feel like I've seen the benefits of us playing, 3 rounds deep last year against Albany, and the young kids getting all the reps last year and getting better throughout the season. And I feel like we're way ahead. We're way ahead of where we were last year at this time. Let's just say that.
Well, you talk about youth and you talk about experience, but as we talked about last year, it's also just simply growth. There's a difference between a 14, 15-year-old sophomore and a 16 or 17-year-old senior.
You bet. Yeah, and that's when you start to see that. Now I'm not saying that you don't take a few freshmen and sophomores. There's always going to be those guys, across the state of Texas that are just already grown up and they're already the dudes, But, you just see a huge difference in kids between their sophomore and junior year, in my opinion, when they start to grow up. Like I said, and you said, they're the oldest kids on the field, and they're starting to gain some weight and get a little bigger. So, yeah, you see a big difference in that time frame.
Is that part of the reason why you got the gauntlet that you did? I mean, not only talked about your 2 scrimmages, but, after this week, you've got Holiday, Windthorst, Pottsboro, a very underrated De Leon team, in my opinion. You have one heck of a non-district schedule.
Yeah, no, I don't know if that's by choice necessarily all the time. We dropped us and Paradise decided to go and find other games, and we ended up picking up Holiday, who's reminds me of Paradise the last couple of years. Really good football team. Windthorst, we've always played. Coach Tackett and I, we enjoy playing. We're very similar, communities and football teams, so we always play, and they're really good again. And then, like you said, Pottsboro, Coach Poe and I have been playing now for a while, and they're quite a bit bigger than us, but we continue to play them, and I don't know why I do that to myself, but I've always said yes. And then, like you said, I think De Leon is got a shot to win that region. I really do. In 2A Division I Region 2, I think they got a shot to play and possibly win that region. So that's going to be a really good football team as well. So yeah, our gauntlet definitely starts this week with Lake Country, but it continues for the next 4 games big time with those guys.
You play Lake Country. They're a newer program, as you were saying. You've seen film on them, but the issue when you play teams like that is the team on film might not be the team that shows up in week 1.
Yeah, you just never know. I know nothing about those guys. I'll tell you how it kind of happens. Last year, I think it's Coach McElroy. I think he was at Peaster for a while. He ended up leaving Peaster, and he went to Lake Country last year with his son. Well, he called me last year and said when they needed a game they wanted to play, and we ended up scheduling them, and I didn't know anything about them, and then I show up at Jacksboro 2 weeks ago, and Coach McElroy done took a job in Jacksboro and took his son, who's a quarterback and a Mike linebacker over there, So we kind of hooked up for the game, and then he left, and Coach White's been there forever, and we talked. Seems like a great guy, but like you said, I just don't know a ton about him except what I've seen on film in those 2 scrimmages. That's about it. So
now, again, talking about the youth of last year into this year, your expectations week 1 into the season, are they the same as last year, or do you feel like y'all should be ahead of where y'all were last year?
No, I think the expectations are definitely different, than what they have been or what they were last year. I feel like we should be ahead, and it appears as though we are ahead of where we were. So the expectations moving forward are just, a little bit higher as far as execution on both sides of the football, and hopefully we're past the youth mistakes and we can just move forward and become a better team each week, and we're going to have to if we want to be able to compete with these dudes for the next month. because we're playing, like you said earlier, playing some really good teams. So I do think we're ahead just with the experience of where we have been, and the expectations are definitely a little bit different.
Well, I mean, you talk about your non-district schedule, but like you and I were talking before we started recording, you're in a very tough district as well again this year.
Yeah, I do. I think our district is very tough, maybe tougher than it has been the last few years. Losing Celeste was a loss as far as a well-coached team and a good football team. Coach Rector does a good job, and losing them, I guess we did drop just a hair, but not much, man, because Lindsay and Collinsville are both going to throw out really good football teams. Santo's always really well coached. Their kids play extremely hard with Coach Mann, and the new Coach Mann is taking over at ERA and had them over. We had them over 7-on-7, and I'm telling you, ERA is way more athletic than they have been in the years past. They got some skilled kids that can move and can run and they can catch. So I fully anticipate ERA being way better than they have been. And then Chico, Coach Sanders is going in on his third year, and he's got a great coaching staff with Coach Hart and Coach Bounds. And, he's just got to get the kids out to play in Chico, and he's working his butt off to do that. And I think his numbers are a little bit better than they have been. So, man, I just feel like our district is really, really solid. I do believe that it's probably one of the strongest 2A Division II districts in the state, in my opinion. We've got some really good football teams, man.
Do you have a kid that plays sports? Are you yourself a weekend warrior? Then I'm going to tell you something. Check out NeuroGuardPlus.com. That's NEURO GuardPlus.com. It's a mouthpiece that can not only help with concussions, but can dramatically affect the way you perform. And the mission of NeuroGuard is to, of course, reduce the risk of suffering a concussion when participating in any contact sport, military, anything that you're doing physical that you could take a blow to the head. You might want to put in a NeuroGuard mouth guard. And as I said, it not only helps eliminate concussions, it helps you perform better by simply aligning your jaw properly. And that sounds like such a simple thing, but it is so important because it allows oxygen to get to your brain. And when you get oxygen to the brain, you don't have that fog of sports or that fog of war where you get confused. And if you've ever played football, that's a sport where that can happen. Especially, man, you're in there in the trenches and you take a shot to the side and all of a sudden things are spinning. This mouth guard will help you keep focus by, again, simply keeping oxygen going to your brain 100%. Again, check them out, NeuroGuardPlus.com. And if you play sports, if you have a kid that plays sport, if you do something physical, one of the things that Dr. Hutchinson, the creator of this, was talking about was some people will use it when they're doing yard work and when they're mowing and things like that, where they're being physically active because they know it helps align their jaw and it keeps oxygen going to the brain, which also helps your lungs, by the way, when you can have full breath every time as you're performing. So again, check them out, NeuroGuardPlus.com.
Hi, I'm Josh Bell with the Miami Marlins. I wear NeuroGuard to help with strength and coordination when I'm in the weight room and help with balance when I'm on the baseball.
As always, we want to thank the head coach of the Hornets, Coach Brady Carney, for joining us as we begin the 2024 season. It blows my mind that I am sitting here on Wednesday morning recording this and the start of football season. We were joking before we started recording. The older we get, it just feels like this gets quicker and quicker. You blink your eye and the season has started, and I'm so excited. And you should be too as Muenster fans. This is, I think, going to be a really special season for a program that I think over the last couple of years has kind of shown where the Hornets are, when you could say that, you had two classes that had to deal with injuries, a lot of youth and things like that. And to look at the two seasons, playing 12 games and playing 13 games into the playoffs. And again, last year, taking a great Albany team to the mat before finally losing. I think that shows just how deep this program is. And especially with, again, the teams that Muenster will be playing through the regular season, not counting district, just the non-district alone. It's one of the toughest schedules. And the district is so tough. That's why on the 2A, when we did the toughest district shows for 2A Division II, we had 8-2A as the number two toughest district behind Mart, because that district was at 11-2A. That district is just loaded with Mart and Bremen and Chilton and Hubbard. And I'm like, don't laugh at Hubbard, but I mean, they have a lot coming back, but they're in a really tough district because of those two. Oh, and Wortham, and so that was the toughest district, but 8-2A Division II was the second toughest district. Speaking of our 2A show, each and every week, Grant Goodwin and I talk 2A football on our show, Sideline to Sideline. You can find that audio podcast, s2sgrantandterry.com, or on YouTube at L4 Media Company. If you have any questions or thoughts for this show, you can email them to me, Terry at s2ssport.com. Again, we want to thank Romer's Restaurant and the Muenster Booster Club for making this show possible. Still looking for more sponsors, so if you have a business in Muenster, please reach out to me. Again, email me, Terry at s2ssport.com, and I'll tell you how we can get you advertising on the show today. All right. That's going to do it for week 1. Week 2, we'll talk about it next week right here on the Muenster Football Show on S2S Sports, part of L4 Media.